this brief video, I want to just read the account that our good friend Plato gives about the Battle of Marathon. Now, there are several accounts about the Battle of Marathon. We've got Herodotus, we've got Datis, and we've got Plato and several other sources. Cornelius Nepos and others. Right. And in Book 3, he states that at the time of the Persian attack on the Greeks, on virtually everyone living in Europe, is perhaps a better way of putting it, we Athenians had a constitution, inherited from the distant past, in which a number of public offices were held on the basis of four property classes. Lady Modesty was the mistress of our hearts, a despot who made us live in willing subjection to the laws then in force. Moreover, the enormous size of the army that was coming at us by land and sea made us desperately afraid and served to increase our obedience to the authorities and the law. For all these reasons, we displayed a tremendous spirit of cooperation. You see, about 10 years before the Battle of Salamis, Battle of Salamis took place in 480 BC, and the Battle of Marathon took place in 490 BC. Datis, the Persian commander, the satrap, had arrived at the head of a Persian army. He had been sent by the emperor, Darius, against the Athenians and the Eretrians, with the explicit instructions to make slaves of them and bring them home. And he had been warned that failure would mean death. With his vast numbers of soldiers, Datis made short work of the Eretrians, whom he completely overpowered and captured. The Persians had captured the city of Eretria by siege. Now, he then sent to Athens a blood-curdling report that not a single Eretrian had got away. Propaganda which asked us to believe that Datis' soldiers, hand in hand in a long line, had come over every inch of Eretria. Well, whatever the truth or otherwise is this tale, it terrified the Greeks. The Athenians were particularly scared, and they sent off envoys in all directions. But no one was prepared to help them, except for the Spartans, who were then, however, prevented by the Messenian War, which was been going on at that time, or perhaps some other distraction. I'm not aware of any information being given on the point. Of course, Plato is wrong here. The Spartans was actually following a religious festival. Right, they only were not fighting the Messenians at the time. Anyway, however that may be, the Spartans arrived at Marathon one day too late for the battle. After this, reports of vast preparations and endless threats on the part of the king came thick and fast. So the Athenians defeated the Persians at Marathon, and the Spartans came a day later. So after this, reports of vast preparations and endless threats on the part of the king, Darius came thick and fast. The years went by, and then we were told that Darius was dead, but that his son, young and impetuous, had inherited the kingdom and was determined not to give up the invasion. The Athenians reckoned that all these preparations were directed against themselves because of what happened at Marathon, a great victory. And when they heard of the canal that had been dug through Athos in Halkidiki, the bridging of the Hellespont, the huge number of Xerxes' ships, they calculated that neither land nor sea offered any prospects of safety. No one, they thought, would come to help them. They remembered the previous attack and the success of the Persians in Eretria when they captured the city. Of course, Plato is wrong. He forgets to mention the Plataeans who helped the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. Anyway, and then no one faced the danger by fighting at their side. On land, they expected the same thing to happen this time. And as for the sea, they realized that escape by this route was out of the question in view of the 1,000 or more ships coming to the attack. They could think of only one hope, and a thin, desperate hope it was. There was simply no other. Their minds went back to the previous occasions, and they reflected how the victory they won in battle and gained an equally desperate circumstances. Sustained by this hope, they began to recognize that no one but they themselves and their gods could provide a way out of difficulties. All this inspired them with spirit, force, and solidarity. One cause was the actual fear they felt at the time, but there was another kind too. Encouraged by the traditional laws of the state, the fear they had learned to experience as a result of being subject to an ancient code of laws. In the course of our earliest discussion, we have called this fear modesty often enough. And we said that people who aspire to be good must be its slave. A coward, on the other hand, is free this particular kind of fear and never experiences it. Right, and so on, so on, so on. So in Book 3, Plato states that after all, Galileans, the way we Greeks repulsed them, that's the Persians, was a disgrace. In saying this, I don't mean that those who won the battles of that war by land and sea, that's the Battle of Salamis, Marathon, Plataea, Mycale, and other battles, they did not do so magnificently. By disgrace, I mean to start with, only one of those three states fought to defend Greece. The other two were rotten to the core. One of them even hindered Sparta's attempt to help the defence and fought her tooth and nail. And he doesn't actually tell us which state that was. So that was probably Thebes, because Thebes was a renegade state and it backed Xerxes. And the other, Argos, which used to be paramount when the territory was first divided up. That's during the Dorian invasion. Although called upon to repel the barbarians, the Persians, they ignored the request and failed to contribute to the defence. A detailed history of the course of that war will have some pretty ugly charges to make against Greece. Indeed, there is no reason why it should report that Greece made any defence at all. If it hadn't been for the joint determination of the Athenians and the Spartans to resist the slavery that threatened them, we should have by now virtually been a complete mixture of the races, Greek with Greek, Greek with barbarian, barbarians with Greeks. We can see a parallel in the nations whom the Persians lord is over today. They have been split up and then horribly jumped up together again into scattered communities in which they now live. In Book 4, the Athenian says to his friend Galileans, yes, that's what most people say, Greek and non-Greek alike. Still, my friend, we Megalith here, and myself, are arguing in favour of two battles fought on land. Marathon, which first got the Greeks out of danger, and Plataea, which finally made them really safe. We maintain that these battles improved the Greeks, whereas the fighting at sea had the opposite effect. I hope this isn't too strong language to use about battles that sometimes certainly helped to ensure our survival. And I'll concede you that the Battle of Artemisium, as well as the one at Salamis, that's very well. But when we examine the natural features of a country and its legal system, our ultimate object of scrutiny is, of course, the quality of the social and political arrangements. We do not hold the common view that man's highest good is to survive and simply continue to exist. His highest good is to become as virtuous as possible and to continue to exist in that state as long as life lasts. But I think we have already taken this line before. So here we got another account of the Battle of Salamis, the naval battle of Artemisium, the Battle of Marathon, and Plataea. And in Book 1, Galileans says, I endorse your freedom to say as much as you like, sir, but you see that when I've heard that, I have to say too. You have probably heard that Epimenides, a man who was divinely inspired, was born hereabouts. He was connected with my family, and 10 years before the Persian attack, he obeyed the command of the oracle to go to Athens, where he performed certain sacrifices which the god had ordered. He told the Athenians, who were apprehensive at the preparations the Persians were making, that the Persians would not come back for 10 years. And then when they did, they would go back with all their intentions frustrated and others sustaining greater losses that they had than they had inflicted. That was when my ancestors formed ties of friendship with you Athenians, and ever since then my forebearers and I held you in affection. So again we have a brief account in Book 1 about the Battle of Marathon, the naval battle of Salamis, Marathon, Plataeans, and so forth.
Plato, the great Athenian philosopher,